Super. Have all of you guys heard of Moz before? Hopefully? Maybe not. Yeah, so we were up until, it still takes me a little while to get used to calling it Moz versus SEO Moz, because it was only a week or so ago that, maybe it was 10 days, that we were SEO Moz. And we swapped to Moz as part of a larger branding strategy to encompass all of inbound marketing versus just SEO. And so inbound, as you may know, is all about what free traffic, what free sources are out there that can drive traffic and drive marketing for you. And so it's not just organic search and SEO, but it's also social, it's also brand mentions and all of that. And what I'm going to talk to you about today, let me take the sunglasses off my head, get a little better, is Followerwonk, and how Followerwonk really enhances what Moz is offering in terms of a social strategy. So 1 year ago, roughly 1 year ago, this was me at another conference, SearchFest down in Portland, and it was me and two other guys, and you can see I have like a little monitor there and just like a real basic setup, really basic and so forth. And we weren't doing big data, we were doing kind of medium-sized data. We were doing a lot of kind of interesting things in terms of crawling Twitter, looking at a lot of interesting correlations between different sorts of activities in terms of what clicks correlate with and so on. And we were kind of doing medium-sized data just because it was three of us. We didn't have the resources to get really exciting with bigger data. You know, we were really on a budget in terms of hardware and so forth. At that conference, I met this guy who's the CEO of Moz, Rand Fishkin. And we joined with, and this was down at the, I always mispronounce the name, the Puyallup, yeah, the state fair. But, you know, I think of it, you know, pull up, it kind of looks like pull-ups, the name, at least to me. And we met Rand, and soon after meeting him, Moz acquired us. And they acquired us, as I mentioned, in part to help expand their inbound marketing away from just SEO and towards the broader spectrum of inbound marketing, social, and so forth. And this allows us to get even bigger in terms of some of the data that we're consuming. We now have more hardware and more resources internally to be able to really dig into social data and look for things that are important for marketers. It's also allowed us in the last year to really expand the number of features that Followerwonk, as well as Moz generally, offers. And still, you know, Followerwonk is mostly free. If you've played around with it, you can go there. You can use most of the functionality for free. And so it's something that if you haven't checked it out, I invite you to do. And I will talk a little bit about some of the features. What we're all about at Followerwonk and at SEO Moz is helping users and our customers find, optimize, and engage their audience. So find those that are going to be most effective for you in terms of getting your message out there. Optimize in terms of figuring out what times, what content, and what strategies are usefully and effectively going to resonate with those people. And then engage in terms of what strategies, but what techniques, particularly on Twitter, are going to really work well. And we do that because Twitter's kind of hard, and social media is kind of hard. But Twitter in particular is sort of one where unless you really dedicate a lot of resources to it, you're kind of out there putting a few tweets out. They're not really going far. They're not really resonating. And that might be because, you know, if you think about any one time you're on Twitter, kind of the average number of people out there, most of them aren't really going to be interested in what you're talking about, or it's going to be hard to reach them. There's only a few that you might be able to reach in terms of, you know, they're following you, they're looking at your particular hashtag and so on. But it's this tiny little segment here that are attentive and eager that you can reach, but it's difficult to break through competitors. It's difficult because they don't follow you. They might be in different time zones. So we're all about trying to find and isolate that particular little segment, the low-hanging fruit, as it were, that you can easily reach, resonate with, and hopefully convert, depending on what you're interested in. If it's, you know, customers, if it's potential customers, if it's someone just to ricochet your message around, that's what we're ultimately trying to do. And, you know, one of the things that's interesting, this is a little analysis that I did, is that even, you know, so on the one hand, it's just the audience is tough. How do you crack through? But on the other, you only have tweets really to go out there and do your job for you. And tweets are very, are gossamer, you know, they have a very short lifespan. I did this analysis where I grabbed from a few thousand different users, I grabbed all of their tweets, or a very large number of tweets. And I looked at all of those that were retweeted, and then I looked at how long the median time was for those retweets to occur. In other words, after what time do 50% of the retweets occurred? And it's only 18 minutes. And so if you think of these retweets as kind of a proxy for readership, it suggests that really tweets don't survive very long. You know, 18 minutes and half of the activity related to them has already happened on average. You know, there is some long tail, but usually those are, you know, like 1 or 2 tweets that continually get kicked down the road. But most of the time, they just burn up like that. So figuring out, unless you're going to spend a lot of time on Twitter just constantly tweeting, which obviously people do, although there's some actual drawbacks for that, you need to figure out how you can find out what message is going to work, when it's going to work, who you target to, and so on. So how can Followerwonk help with that? So there are 5 kind of major functional areas on the site, and I'll just kind of quickly go, and by the way, tell me when I start going over time, because I'm just going to keep rolling on unless someone stops me. 5 major functional areas in Followerwonk. When you go there, please sign in with Twitter right away, and I'll explain why in a second, but that's going to give you some enhanced features. Most of what you can do up here is, again, it's mostly free. There are some ways that we try and upsell you and convert you into a Moz Pro subscription, and there are some real benefits for that. The other thing to remember with Moz Pro is not just, you don't just get Followerwonk, but you get all of the whole suite of SEO software as well as all brand mentions and a lot of other exciting stuff coming soon. So this is actually, the bio search is something that really was the initial sort of bread and butter for Followerwonk. What we were doing with another app, it turned out, was we were grabbing data on every Twitter user out there and databasing it. And so we were like, we have this database of basically every Twitter user, apart from, you know, ones that have just created their accounts or very dormant and so on. It would be great to expose this to users. And so that's what the biosearch tool does. And it's kind of a basic thing, but it has a great deal of sort of richness to it. So you can search for anyone on Twitter with SEO or CEO in their bio. Then you can also do other exciting things, like you can say, show me all SEOs or CEOs on Twitter that have more than 50,000 followers or less than 50,000 followers. What you can also do, and this is really exciting for people that have larger social networks, is you can search within your followers or friends. So show me all CEOs that follow me and have more than 1,000 followers, for example. So this is a great way that you can really sort of dig in and figure out and find those particular, your target audience that is going to be out there. The results that come back are really, in my mind, really exciting. So you can see we have, like, you know, we list sort of just like Twitter does, like all of the basic things. But then over here on the left, we tell you, and this is why you want to log in, we tell you the social relationship that you have with that person. If you follow them, if they follow you. And so you can quickly scroll down a list and see, you know, if here was a search for SEO, for example, you can see which of those people follow me and which follow back, and you can very quickly sort of sync up. We also, over on the right, we have all this other data, the number of tweets they've made, how many people follow them, what their social authority is, which I'll talk about in a second, and so on. And then you can reorder those users. So we think this is a really kind of cool way that people can do a particular search, really narrow it down to a certain audience, then do these different things to find which of those people follow you and so on. And in here, if you mouse over, there's actually more. Oh, and we're kind of, oh no, it's right there. So here, this is I'm mousing over this particular user, and what's really cool is we now tell you, so when you mouse over the arrow, if you're a pro subscriber, because we don't track all of this data for non-pro people, we tell you when you started to follow that person or when they started to follow you. What we also do over here with this engagement stuff is we tell you we analyze their particular tweets for the last 100 or 200 tweets they've done. We tell you what percentage of their tweets are @ mentions or retweets, and what percentage have URLs. That's kind of a really exciting thing because it tells you what percentage of, or what people out there are potentially going to be receptive to your message. If someone has 0% engagement, they never retweet, they never @ mention anyone else, then it's highly unlikely that any effort that you put in terms of reaching them is going to be successful. So this is something that we're really excited about. And as you can imagine, there's a whole bunch of back-end stuff going on where we're having to, man, this voice, as I bob my head up and down, the sound keeps jumping up. But there's a whole bunch of back-end stuff that we're doing. So for all of these different users, we're crawling through their tweets and assembling this data. And as I mentioned, social authority is one new little metric that we have on there. And that's something that's kind of our in-house metric in terms of influence. And obviously there's a lot of different influence metrics out there, but this is something that we're excited about because A, it's business focused. It's not about getting freebies or what have you with different brands. It's less about consumers. It's more for marketers to figure out what their audience is about and how they can best dissect them. The other thing is it's transparent, and that's something that we're sort of realized when looking at the competitors is a lot of the different scores out there don't tell you what goes into their mystery meat. And you're kind of left going, what exactly is this all about? And so social authority is based on retweets. We see sort of retweets as the currency of Twitter. Here's this little graph I used again at the beginning. This is some data analysis that we did that shows that retweets correlate really highly with clicks. Generally, for every retweet a tweet gets, it gets about 10 clicks. And you can see that relationship is really tight. And it's even tighter than followers to clicks. In other words, the number of followers is a pretty good metric in terms of figuring out how many clicks a tweet's going to get. But retweet rate is really, really strongly correlates to clicks. And for us at Moz, and for most marketers, clicks are sort of the bread and butter. How many clicks can I get from Twitter? How many clicks are these things going to get? So we use retweets as a proxy in some ways for clicks. This, by the way, was done, I can talk about it later, but we queried against Bitly and got their public API and got all of the click data and then correlated it with retweet data. Of course, it's not just about retweets. There's a lot of other stuff that go in there, and that's partly because a lot of people don't get retweets, which is fine, but we need a way to sort of figure out how we can score those people that don't get many retweets. So there's other stuff that goes in there too. We take into account time and so forth. So social authority, this particular score, and it's sort of imbued now within all the different aspects of Followerwonk, allows you to kind of figure out what your quality audience is. It lets you sort of dig through those people and figure out which are most influential. And it kind of comes down, in my mind, to like this particular thing on Twitter. You want to find those people who are really influential for you, but you also want to find those that are likely to listen to you, because just tweeting, random CEOs or random celebrities isn't going to be very effective for you unless they are likely to engage with you. And so that's why it comes back down to this notion of figuring out those with high social authority. So here's again a search for search engine optimization on Followerwonk, and you can see Danny Sullivan's up at the top, and SEO Moz, and then Rand's number 3. But as I scroll over, I can see, oh, okay, Rand has a 71 social authority, but his engagement is 70%. 70% of his tweets are @ mentions of other people or retweets. He's really highly likely, or more likely than other folks, to respond back if I was to engage with him. And that's where, one of the things I kind of think about, and I talk about it on the previous slide, is it's less about sort of how many followers you have, and it's much more about the quality of those followers and aiming for a particular audience. So when I was, pre-acquisition, I didn't care what every other follower that was following me was doing. All I wanted to reach was Rand, because I wanted him to acquire us. So, you have to figure out what your little target audience is, and it may not be all of your followers. It may just be a few, VCs, or it may be a few customers or a few prospective customers. So these tools of social authority and the engagement metrics can help you sort of isolate that down. Another great feature than Followerwonk is the ability to compare social graphs. So this is the second tab, and if you go there, you'll be able to quickly compare, say, the social graphs of 3 competitors. And this will tell you the shared and unique followers or friends of those competitors. So if you're an upstart, say, soda company, you could say, I want to see all of those followers that Coke, Pepsi, Dr. Pepper have in common. And then it will assemble a little chart like this. And in this case, there isn't any overlap between John Kerry, Nancy Pelosi, and Ron Paul. But in the soda example, there is probably going to be an overlap. And you know then that those people that are followed by or follow all 3 of those soft drinks are going to be super soda heads. And then what you can do is you can click on one of these links over here on the right, and up will pop a list of those users that are common to those 3 soft drinks. And so this is a great way, that you can kind of trawl Twitter by using your competitors and using the knowledge that you can get really easily on Twitter about them. In other words, what relationships they have. You can use that to kind of, triangulate, figure out where the shared and unique followers are. Then, with this list that pops up, you can again sort by social authority. You can mouse over any of these ones to see the engagement. You can view your relationship status with them. You can do in-app following. But then again, take this as a springboard to be able to take it and use it in terms of engagement strategies with those people. The third tab gives you the ability to analyze any user. And so here you can enter yourself or another user, and we'll do a whole bunch of slicing and dicing of the social graph. We will tell you where all the followers that have public information in terms of location are. What we'll also do is we'll tell you your most active hours for those followers. And so this is something we actually announced it yesterday, a little partnership with Buffer, which is a scheduling app so that you can go on, you can set up a schedule of I want to tweet every day at 2 p.m., for example. What you can do now is you can come in, you can do into Followerwonk, you can do an analysis of yourself. You can find out what your most active hours are in terms of your followers, and then you can schedule it with Buffer very easily by clicking that button. It'll go off, and in this case, it'll put most of the tweets around 3 p.m. when most of my followers are most active. So this is something we're really excited about. You can also do more, so what you can do is we do all sorts of little breakdowns of your followers or any user's followers and segment it. So you can see the most influential followers of a particular user. You can then click on any of those little links over there and you'll get another pop-up. The fourth tab is the track feature. And this is one that, in my mind, is really exciting because what happens, and this is a pro-only feature, but what happens is when you become a pro member, we track every new and lost relationship you form and every new and lost relationship people form with you. So you can see in this case, this is for the @Followerwonk Twitter handle. We show you every new user that's formed here and every lost relationship formed. What you can do then is you can click on any day and it'll pop up a list of new and lost followers, and then you can sort by that. So you can see in this example, that was actually yesterday where we announced the Buffer thing. You can see, boom, there's a little spike up there where we gained around 300 new followers. We can click on that and it'll pop up a list of those 300 followers. We can then sort, figure out who the most influential is, message them, DM them, otherwise engage and take advantage of that new relationship that's formed. On the other hand, we can see here there was a big spike. What happened here where we lost close to 200 followers? We might trace it back, start looking at our tweets to figure out what content drove these users away. Usually when you see spikes like this, it's Twitter cleaning up spam accounts. But sometimes it's not. We saw one with Rand, our CEO, where he had missed a particular conference due to no fault of his own. And then we saw a huge spike down in people unfollowing him because the keynote speaker wasn't there. This was 18 months ago or so. So, as a final sort of closing thought, we're working on lots of exciting new stuff. And since I'm actually not that great at Twitter, feel free to follow me and send me tweets. And if any of you have any questions,